I had some chunks of American holly, which is a really interesting wood. It's very white. It almost appears like it doesn't have any grain. It turns like turning plastic. It just seems to turn flawlessly. It's very white. It's very smooth. It's hard, and so I thought I'd make a couple little wood carving mallets that I use on smaller chisels like these, and maybe tiny chisels like this one here, where you don't need a lot of pressure, a lot of pounding pressure. I have larger mallets that I use for larger things, but these little kind of one hand, lightweight but heavy enough to get the job done mallets are kind of handy, and I think they look extra nice in holly. And so I'm going to make some very quickly here. Stay tuned. Again, I had this chunk. I had two or three chunks about this size, and so I generally just use a square to find the center, and it's not too scientific. I just measure equal amounts from all four sides and eyeball the center of that marking that I've made, and it seems to work good enough. You can see I had actually flattened the sides of this stick. I was thinking of doing something else with it, and then thought better of it. So I just did this to make centers. I use mostly this large high-speed steel gouge to clean it up, to round it, and then I use this high-speed steel tool to make marks and gauge my depth of cut. So you can see I'm just taking that large gouge now and just trying to round this stick. The stick was awfully round already, so it didn't take long for me to get it down to be pretty much uniformly cylindrical. Again, you can see how white the wood is. You can see how it just peels off with the gouge. It just comes off so cleanly. I mean, look at how smooth that looks, just running by it with a pretty rough gouge that is not even all that sharp. Here's another one I had. I made some marks here to determine where the transition goes between the head and the handle. And I used the parting tool to mark the top and the bottom, or each end, and you'll see I'll kind of wear away at that as time goes on. And here I'm just rounding down the shape. Then I mostly switch to these carbide tools that I have. I have a couple that are square, almost flat across for doing smooth straight lines. I have a large diameter round, this pointed one for getting to tight spots, a smaller diameter round, and another almost square. These are micro carbide. They're great tools. The benefit of these tools, in my opinion, is once you've used one a lot and you feel like maybe you've dulled it a little bit, you just pull that set screw, rotate it 90 degrees, and you've got a new cutting surface. The other thing nice about this square one is you can both smooth a straight surface, and the sides of it are also sharp, so as you move sideways along the wood, it's also taking wood away. So you can see how quickly you can get the shape down using either the square tool or the round tool. This is the smaller diameter round tool. Again, you can just see how quickly it takes away the wood. And of course this holly, like I said, it just seems to turn without issue. So I'm kind of alternating between the square tool and the round tool to get this thing shaped out roughly. I'll switch to that larger diameter round tool to remove wood faster and to start to shape the grip part of the handle. Again, I'm just continuing to get that diameter down in the handle portion of the tool. And then I'm back to the parting tool here to just cut those ends a little bit deeper. I'm going to need to get into those ends at an angle, so you'll see that I'll cut those ends down as small as I can get them and still be stable on the lathe in order to be able to get into each of those ends and make them flat or even concave a little bit so that the tool would stand on its end. Here's the larger diameter round tool. Look how fast it takes the wood down. That's good for shaping. You can just see how fast look at that, how fast it removes the wood. And it does it just glassy smooth. So I just continue to make kind of finger grips out of this, nothing scientific, no measuring, just kind of eyeballing. Doesn't matter to me. I just want something that grips well. I tend to make grips pretty good size because I like them larger in my hand and not skinny. And so I just wanted to sample this quickly by trying a little sandpaper on it to see how smooth it was coming out. It was working out good, so I just continued on these ends to be able to get into each end of this thing at an angle. You can see I'm getting those pretty small. Again, the parting tool works great for that purpose. Here's that small round tool again. And now I'm going to just continue to get this handle in deeper and smaller diameter and cut those finger holes or finger grips a little bit deeper. These tools are super easy to hold on to because they are big in your hand, and the depth of the finger grips just make them kind of sure-handed when you're using them. Again, on a small chisel, you don't need a ton of pounding weight. You just need to be able to tap it, and these work great at just, I would say, just tapping the chisel. I've seen some of these before where they drill out the end, the large end of the mallet, and then fill it with lead or brass or steel to add weight to it. I haven't found that necessary, but again, when I use these, I use them on pretty tiny chisels that really don't need a whole lot of force when you're tapping at them. You can see those shavings just came off in nice curls and very smoothly. So I'm just using some, I think this is 80 grit, to take down the wood as quickly as I could. I'm holding my vacuum there to just suck up the dust. And once I got that to where I liked the smoothness of it, I went from 80 to 220. Just jumped. Well, I think I went to 150 and then 220. And once it was smooth, I went from sanding to pretty much sort of burnishing it. This is 220 paper here. I think I've gotten it now to the point where I'm ready to put some finish on it, so I took my parting tool and got each end down as small as I could get it, and was able to again kind of dive into that each end of the tool to make the ends a little bit concave. Again, it's just glassy smooth, this holly. It's really a pleasure to work with. So here I'm going to put shellac on it. I put 2 coats of shellac on it. I just rubbed it on. I tried to just soak the wood. Shellac is nice in that it's so thin. It soaks into the wood, although this holly is so smooth and so kind of without grain that it barely sucks it in. But I put just a ton on if I could get it on there. And another beauty of the shellac is almost by the time you're at one end, the other end is dry. It didn't take long to get that down to where it was dry. I sanded it lightly with 220 paper. Then I put a second coat on, sanded that lightly with 220 paper. And here I am with Johnson's paste wax. Again, I'm just rubbing that on. with a rag, and I find that buffing it off a paper towel works really, really well. And you can see I'm just buffing it here with a paper towel. I applied 2 coats of that. The first coat with steel wool, the second coat with a rag, just to kind of burnish it in. Not sure the second coat added that much to it. You can see that it's got quite the shine on it. Very smooth in your hand. Again, absolutely just about no grain. Here I am with a handful of shavings to just burnish it. And now with my sharp pointed carbide tip, I'm able to dig way down inside both ends to get that down to about an eighth of an inch, holding the tool in place. So it's just barely enough to hang on to it to keep it round. Then I just grab my Japanese saw and weaken it a little bit, move my tip, and the tool is free. There it is, a holly carving mallet. I made a pair of them because I had 2 pieces of wood. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, please subscribe. Thanks again.